The morning sun catches the gleaming chrome of luxury cars lined up outside Pinnacle Properties' flagship showroom in Beverly Hills. Maya Johnson adjusts her simple black blazer and walks toward the glass entrance, her Hermes bag, a subtle detail most won't notice, hanging casually from her shoulder. At 38, she carries herself with quiet confidence, though today she's dressed down deliberately in understated business attire that could belong to any mid-level professional. The moment she steps through the automatic doors, a security guard's eyes narrow with practiced suspicion. "Excuse me, miss, do you have an appointment?" His tone carries that particular edge reserved for people he deems suspicious, a code word that has followed Maya through countless luxury establishments throughout her career. Maya pauses, taking in the marble floors imported from Italy, the crystal chandeliers that cost more than most people's cars, the towering displays of million-dollar penthouses stretching toward the vaulted ceiling. This is her empire. Every fixture, every carefully curated detail, every strategic lighting choice bears her personal vision and approval. "I'm interested in viewing the penthouse collection," she says simply, her voice steady and professional. "The $15 million units." The security guard exchanges a meaningful glance with the receptionist, who barely looks up from her screen but manages to convey volumes of judgment in her brief, dismissive glance. A middle-aged white couple enters behind Maya, their casual designer attire suggesting old money rather than new wealth, and suddenly the entire atmosphere shifts like a theatrical scene change. Warm smiles bloom across staff faces, immediate attention materializes from nowhere, offers of champagne and premium brochures appear as if summoned by magic. "Ma'am, those units require pre-qualification," the guard says, his voice deliberately loud enough for other customers to hear and judge. "Maybe you'd be more interested in our starter properties?" The word starter drips with condescension, loaded with assumptions about Maya's financial capacity, social status, and right to occupy this rarefied space. Maya feels the familiar sting of assumption cutting deep, the weight of being judged by the color of her skin rather than the impressive content of her bank account or the empire she's built from nothing. What they don't know, what none of them could possibly imagine in their wildest assumptions, is that they're speaking to the woman who built this entire real estate empire from a small storefront in Oakland 20 years ago. The CEO whose signature appears on every contract, every lease agreement, every policy manual they're supposed to follow religiously. Maya Johnson isn't just any potential buyer walking in off the street. She's the visionary whose strategic decisions determine their quarterly bonuses, whose leadership philosophy shapes their training programs, and whose personal wealth dwarfs the net worth of their most affluent customers. You won't believe what happens when the devastating truth finally comes to light. Maya moves deeper into the showroom with the measured pace of someone who knows exactly what she's looking for, though she allows herself to appear slightly uncertain, like any legitimate customer navigating an unfamiliar luxury environment. Her trained eye, honed by decades in real estate development, catches every subtle detail: the sales process inefficiencies, the customer interaction protocols, the unspoken but unmistakable patterns of treatment based purely on physical appearance and assumed economic status. She's not here by accident or casual curiosity. For months, she's been receiving troubling reports about discriminatory practices at her Beverly Hills flagship location, whispered complaints from customers of color that were somehow mysteriously never making it up the corporate chain of command to her executive office. Sarah Chen, the sales manager Maya personally hired 3 years ago for her impressive credentials and apparent commitment to inclusive customer service, glides past in her designer heels with the fluid confidence of someone who owns the space. She offers Maya nothing more than a perfunctory nod and a dismissive, "Let me know if you need anything," her voice carrying the subtle but unmistakable tone of someone already writing off a potential customer as unworthy of serious attention. The words are spoken while Sarah's eyes are already scanning the room for more promising prospects, her body language screaming disinterest and judgment. But when the white couple approaches the same premium display area, asking about the identical penthouse units that Maya had inquired about moments earlier, Sarah's transformation is immediate, complete, and stunningly revealing. Suddenly, there's genuine warmth radiating from her smile, infectious enthusiasm for the architectural details, and detailed explanations about crown molding imported from European castles and rare Italian marble harvested from quarries that supply only the world's most exclusive properties. The contrast is so stark, so professionally shameless, that Maya has to consciously control her facial expression to avoid revealing her growing anger and disappointment. Maya watches this performance with studied professional detachment, though something cold and hard settles in her chest like a stone dropped into still water. She approaches a display model of the Sunset Tower penthouse, her personal favorite unit, the crown jewel she designed herself during countless late nights when the company was still fighting to establish credibility in this ruthlessly elite market. Every detail of this model reflects her vision. The floor-to-ceiling windows that frame the city like a living painting, the custom lighting that transforms throughout the day, the open concept design that maximizes both space and natural light flow. A junior salesperson, barely out of college and obviously new to luxury real estate based on his nervous energy and overeager manner, finally acknowledges Maya's presence after she's been standing alone for nearly 10 minutes. "Are you looking for something specific?" he asks. But his body language, the way he positions himself at a distance, keeps his hands in his pockets, avoids direct eye contact, suggests he's already mentally categorizing her as a time waster who wandered in from the street without serious purchasing intent. When Maya inquires about the penthouse pricing and availability, providing specific questions about square footage and amenities that demonstrate genuine knowledge and interest, he steers her instead toward a wall display featuring affordable luxury, condos, starting at what he considers a more reasonable $800,000, as if this represents some kind of generous accommodation to her presumed financial limitations. "These might be more in your range," he says with practiced but poorly concealed condescension, his tone suggesting he's doing her a favor by acknowledging her presence at all. Great starter units for young professionals who are just getting established. Maya notices with growing irritation that he doesn't ask about her profession, income level, or financing capacity before making these insulting assumptions. The white couple, meanwhile, is being shown detailed financial packages, exclusive investment opportunities, and private viewing appointments without facing a single probing question about their qualifications or creditworthiness. The discriminatory pattern crystallizes with painful, undeniable clarity. In her own showroom, operating under policies she personally crafted to ensure equal treatment and respect for all potential customers, regardless of race or apparent economic status, Maya Johnson is being systematically dismissed, redirected away from premium properties, and marginalized by the very people whose paychecks depend on her company's success. The irony would be darkly amusing if it weren't so personally devastating and professionally infuriating. The tension ratchets up significantly when Maya politely but firmly insists on viewing the actual penthouse units, not just the sanitized marketing models designed for casual browsing. The junior salesperson shifts uncomfortably, suddenly invoking manager approval requirements for showings that, according to company policy, Maya wrote herself, require no such bureaucratic obstacles for qualified customers. His discomfort is palpable as he scrambles to find legitimate-sounding reasons to delay or deny her request. "I'll need to verify your financial capacity first," he stammers, producing a detailed pre-qualification form that asks invasive questions about employment history, annual salary, liquid assets, and credit score. Information that should only be required after genuine interest has been established and purchase negotiations have begun. "Company policy," he adds unconvincingly, though Maya watches with growing fury as he bypasses this entire process for a younger white man who just requested access to the same premium units without providing so much as a business card or basic contact information. The double standard is so blatant, so professionally indefensible, that Maya has to consciously control her breathing to maintain composure. She answers the financial questions with calculated vagueness that should satisfy any reasonable professional, mentioning real estate investment as her primary business, indicating liquid assets sufficient for cash purchases, and providing contact information for her supposed financial advisors. But instead of accepting these responses and moving forward with the customer service process, the salesperson seems only more suspicious and resistant. Sarah Chen materializes as if summoned by some invisible alert system, appearing with the swift efficiency of someone responding to a perceived crisis. Her smile is arctic, professional but utterly devoid of warmth or genuine customer service spirit. "Is there a problem here?" she asks, though her eyes never leave Maya's face and her tone suggests she's already identified Maya as the source of whatever problem exists. "I'm told you're asking about our premium properties." The phrase carries enormous weight, loaded with implications about whether Maya belongs in this conversation at all, whether her interest is legitimate or merely disruptive. "I'd like to schedule a viewing," Maya responds with deliberate calm, drawing on years of experience navigating hostile corporate environments where maintaining professional composure often meant the difference between success and failure. "I'm particularly interested in the corner unit with the panoramic city views." She deliberately names specific architectural features that aren't mentioned in any public brochure or marketing material, details that exist only in the confidential architectural plans she personally reviewed and approved during the blank. The development process. Sarah's eyebrows lift slightly at this demonstration of insider knowledge, but suspicion rather than recognition colors her expression. Instead of being impressed by Maya's detailed understanding of the properties, she seems to interpret this knowledge as some kind of threat or inappropriate access to confidential information. "Those units are $15 million, Sarah says slowly, as if Maya might not understand numbers of this magnitude or might need time to process the financial reality of such a purchase. "They require serious financial commitment and extensive documentation. Are you working with a buyer's agent? Do you have pre-approved financing? Have you purchased properties in this price range before?" Each question lands like a small insult, implications stacking upon implications about Maya's experience, sophistication, and worthiness as a customer. Maya maintains her composure with supreme effort, though something dangerous and powerful is building behind her calm exterior like pressure in a sealed container. "I'm pre-qualified," she says simply, offering no additional details that might satisfy Sarah's obvious hunger for reasons to dismiss her. "Shall we schedule the viewing?" But Sarah isn't finished with her interrogation, and her questions become increasingly personal and inappropriate. "What line of work are you in?" The question comes with a slight tilt of the head and a tone that suggests genuine puzzlement about how someone like Maya could possibly afford properties in this price range. It's the way someone might ask a child what they want to be when they grow up, curious but fundamentally dismissive of the possibility that the answer might be impressive or legitimate. Around them, other customers move freely through premium displays, handling expensive brochures, asking detailed questions about amenities and financing options, scheduling private viewings, all without facing a single probing question about their careers, creditworthiness, or right to be taken seriously as potential buyers. The situation reaches a cruel and devastating crescendo when Maya, still maintaining her professional dignity despite the mounting insults and obstacles, makes the reasonable request to speak with the general manager about the viewing process and the apparent inconsistencies in how different customers are being treated. This request, which should be welcomed by any customer-focused organization, instead triggers Sarah Chen's complete abandonment of professional pretense. Her voice rises just enough for nearby customers to hear clearly, ensuring that Maya's humiliation will be public and witnessed. "I think you're at the wrong showroom, honey. This isn't a public viewing space or some kind of open house tour. These are serious luxury properties for serious buyers with serious money." The words honey and serious are weaponized, designed to infantilize Maya while questioning her legitimacy as a customer. The verbal assault hangs in the air like poison gas, contaminating the elegant atmosphere and drawing stares from every corner of the showroom. Several customers turn to observe this unfolding drama, their faces displaying various degrees of curiosity, embarrassment, and, unfortunately, agreement with Sarah's assessment. Maya feels the familiar, nauseating heat of public humiliation washing over her, the sensation of being put on trial for the crime of existing in a space while black, of having her dignity stripped away by someone who views her as inherently suspicious and unworthy. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of our satellite offices, Sarah continues, her tone now openly hostile and dismissive, abandoning any pretense of customer service or professional courtesy. They handle more accessible price points for people with more realistic expectations. The deliberate pause before accessible carries volumes of ugly meaning, all of it designed to shame and exclude Maya from this rarefied environment. A well-dressed older white woman, emboldened by Sarah's public attack, whispers loudly to her companion, "Some people just don't know their place anymore. They think they can go anywhere and demand anything." The comment is clearly intended for Maya to hear, designed to reinforce the message that she's transgressing boundaries and challenging social hierarchies that should remain fixed and unchallenged. The comment hits like a physical blow, striking directly at the psychological wounds that never fully heal for successful people of color who constantly navigate spaces where their presence is questioned and their achievements are doubted. But Maya's expression remains serene and professional, drawing on years of hard-won experience navigating corporate America, where reacting emotionally to racial provocations only provides ammunition for those eager to dismiss and discredit her. Instead of rising to the bait or defending herself with the anger that would be completely justified, Maya pulls out her phone with deliberate, calculated calm. "Could you hold on for just a moment?" she asks Sarah with perfect politeness, her voice carrying none of the rage that's building inside her like a controlled nuclear reaction. "I need to make a quick call to clarify something." She dials a number from memory, and when her executive assistant answers on the first ring, Maya's voice is steady, clear, and unmistakably authoritative. "Jennifer, please schedule an emergency board meeting for this afternoon. Full attendance required from all department heads and senior management. We need to discuss some serious customer service protocol violations and potential legal issues at our Beverly Hills location." The conversation is brief but loaded with implications that begin to penetrate even Sarah's arrogant certainty. Maya notices Sarah's confidence faltering slightly as the professional tone and corporate language register in ways that casual threats or complaints might not. Also, Maya continues into the phone, her voice carrying clearly across the now quiet showroom, "Please have our legal department review our anti-discrimination policies and prepare a comprehensive report on complaint procedures and enforcement mechanisms. We may need to conduct a full operational audit of this location, including a review of all customer interactions and sales practices over the past 6 months." When she ends the call, Sarah is studying her with new attention, though suspicion, rather than recognition, still dominates her expression. There's something different in her posture now, a subtle uncertainty creeping in where absolute arrogance once reigned supreme. "Was that really necessary?" Sarah asks, but there's a new note in her voice that wasn't there before. The first hint that perhaps she's misjudged the situation and the person she's been systematically humiliating for the past hour. Maya meets her gaze steadily, her response carrying the quiet weight of someone accustomed to having her concerns taken seriously by people in positions of real power. These processes seem to be applied very selectively. "I'm simply ensuring that proper procedures are being followed and that there's appropriate documentation of today's interactions." But Sarah completely misreads this display of professional authority, interpreting Maya's measured response and corporate language as pretension rather than the genuine voice of someone with real power and influence in this industry. What begins as a personal confrontation between Maya and Sarah rapidly spirals into something much larger, more dangerous, and more revealing of systemic problems within the organization. Sarah Chen, perhaps feeling her authority challenged and her professional judgment questioned, makes the catastrophic decision to escalate the situation by making an example of Maya in front of the entire showroom audience. "Security," she calls across the elegant space, her voice carrying clearly to every corner and ensuring maximum public attention for Maya's humiliation. "We have a customer who's becoming disruptive and refusing to follow our standard procedures." The accusation is breathtaking in its audacity and completely disconnected from reality. Maya has done nothing but ask polite questions, make reasonable requests, and maintain perfect professional composure even in the face of increasingly hostile treatment. The security guard approaches with obvious reluctance and visible discomfort. He's been watching the entire interaction and can see that Maya hasn't raised her voice, made threatening gestures, or violated any reasonable behavioral standards. But Sarah's insistence and apparent authority override his better judgment and natural inclination to de-escalate rather than amplify the tension. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you can't respect our sales process and stop disrupting other customers," the guard says uncomfortably, clearly uncomfortable with his role in this unfolding drama. Other customers are now openly staring, and Maya realizes with growing anger that this public spectacle is exactly what Sarah intended, a theatrical performance designed to humiliate, silence, and permanently exclude her from this space. The situation escalates further when other staff members begin to gather, drawn like vultures by Sarah's increasingly dramatic and exaggerated complaints about difficult customers, people who think they can just demand whatever they want, and individuals who don't understand appropriate boundaries. The language is carefully coded but unmistakably racial in its implications, designed to tap into ugly stereotypes about entitled, demanding black customers who refuse to accept their designated place in social hierarchies. A small crowd forms with Maya at its uncomfortable center, and she finds herself bearing the weight of unwanted attention from dozens of eyes. Some faces show genuine embarrassment at the scene they're witnessing, recognizing injustice even if they lack the courage to speak up against it. But others display that particular satisfaction people feel when they believe someone is getting what they deserve, the satisfaction of watching social boundaries enforced and challenges to established order punished. The social dynamics in the room shift palpably, with Maya systematically isolated as the presumed troublemaker, the person whose unreasonable demands and inappropriate behavior have disrupted the peaceful harmony of this exclusive environment. The narrative being constructed around her transforms her from victim to villain, from someone experiencing discrimination to someone causing problems for hard-working staff and legitimate customers. "Some people just don't understand how business works," announces Tom Rodriguez, the general manager, as he strides into the situation with the confidence of someone riding to the rescue. He's a tall man in his 50s who carries himself with the unshakable confidence of someone who's never had his right to be anywhere questioned, never faced assumptions about his creditworthiness, never been made to prove his belonging in exclusive spaces. "These properties require serious financial backing, not wishful thinking or demands for special treatment," he continues, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to having his judgments accepted without question. Maya feels the walls closing in as the group psychology takes complete hold, transforming individual prejudices into collective certainty about her character and intentions. What started as individual bias has now metastasized into full mob mentality, with each person's prejudices reinforcing and amplifying the others. The whispered comments grow louder and more openly hostile. "Why doesn't she just leave? Some people always have to make everything about race. She's probably planning to file some frivolous lawsuit." These people always play the victim card, but Maya doesn't break under this psychological assault. Instead, she continues methodically taking notes on her phone, documenting names, exact quotes, timestamps, and behaviors with the precision of someone building a legal case. Her calm professionalism in the face of mounting hostility seems to frustrate her accusers even more, as if her refusal to lose control or validate their assumptions about her character represents some kind of personal insult. "I'm simply trying to view properties as a potential customer," Maya states clearly for everyone to hear, her voice carrying across the showroom with perfect clarity. "I haven't raised my voice, made any threats, or violated any posted policies. I'm asking to be treated with the same basic respect and consideration shown to other customers. Her words are measured, reasonable, and utterly damning in their simplicity. Tom Rodriguez makes his crucial error, then, interpreting Maya's dignity and composure as defiance that must be crushed. "That's it," he declares with finality. "I'm calling the police. We don't tolerate harassment of our staff or disruption of our business operations." The threat hangs in the air like a blade, and Maya feels the full, suffocating weight of American history pressing down on her. All the countless times throughout this nation's history when authorities have been summoned to remove black people from spaces they had every legal and moral right to occupy. The crowd seems to approve of this escalation, murmuring agreement that Maya has brought this on herself through her unreasonable demands and disruptive behavior. Sarah Chen stands with arms crossed in vindicated triumph, having successfully transformed Maya into the villain of this story using tools and techniques as old as America itself. But Maya pulls out her phone one more time, and this time she's not calling her assistant or her lawyers. The phone rings exactly twice before a familiar, authoritative voice answers with immediate warmth and concern. "Maya, how's the surprise site visit going? Are you getting the information you need about our customer service standards?" The speaker is Richard Hamilton, chairman of Pinnacle Properties Board of Directors, and his voice carries clearly through the phone speaker across the suddenly silent showroom like a thunderclap announcing an approaching storm. Every conversation stops. Every whisper dies. Every assumption begins to crumble in real time as the implications of this phone call start to penetrate even the most obtuse minds in the crowd. "Richard," Maya says with devastating calm, her voice now carrying the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to boardroom negotiations and billion-dollar decisions, "I'm going to need you to conference in the entire executive team immediately. We have a serious situation here that requires immediate attention and comprehensive intervention." Tom Rodriguez freezes mid-stride toward his office phone, something in Maya's tone finally penetrating his certainty and arrogance, like a knife through butter. "Of course," Richard responds immediately, his voice betraying no surprise at the urgency of Maya's request. "Tom should be right there with you. Let me get him on the line right now." Maya's expression doesn't change as she watches Tom's face begin to drain of color like water flowing out of a punctured container. "Tom?" Richard's voice now comes through the phone's speaker with crystal clarity. "Tom, are you there? I need you to provide Miss Johnson with whatever assistance she requires immediately." The silence in the showroom becomes so complete it's almost physical, pressing against eardrums like atmospheric pressure before a massive storm. Sarah Chen's arms slowly uncross as the reality of the situation begins to sink in with the inexorable force of an avalanche. The security guard takes a step backward, no longer certain about his role in this rapidly evolving drama. "Tom," Richard continues when there's no response from the paralyzed general manager, "Maya is our CEO and founder. She's conducting an unannounced customer service evaluation at your location. I trust you've been providing her with your complete cooperation and the professional treatment befitting her position." The words fall like hammer blows on an anvil, each one reshaping the reality of everyone present and revealing the magnitude of their collective error. Maya finally speaks, her voice now carrying the quiet but absolute authority of someone who built a real estate empire from nothing and commands respect in boardrooms across the nation. "Richard, I'm afraid what I've witnessed here today represents a systematic and devastating failure of our equal treatment policies, our diversity training programs, and our basic customer service standards. I'm going to need a complete investigation of this location's practices, including a review of all customer interactions and staff training records." Tom Rodriguez's face has gone completely gray, the color of old concrete. His mouth opens and closes soundlessly as he struggles to process the magnitude of his professional and personal catastrophe. Around the showroom, staff members exchange panicked glances while customers begin to understand they've just witnessed something extraordinary, the complete inversion of a power dynamic they thought they understood. Sarah Chen stumbles backward as if physically struck by an invisible force. The woman who minutes ago was so certain of her authority, so confident in her judgments, so secure in her ability to determine who belonged in this space and who didn't, now looks like someone who's just realized she's been standing on a cliff edge in complete darkness. I didn't, Sarah begins, but Maya raises a gentle hand that somehow carries more authority than all of Sarah's earlier hostility and aggression combined. Miss Chen, Maya says with devastating, surgical calm, you've just provided me with a comprehensive master class in discriminatory customer service. Every assumption you made about my financial capacity, every extra hurdle you created for my customer experience, every coded comment about whether I belong here, every attempt to redirect me away from premium properties has been carefully documented. She holds up her phone like evidence in a courtroom, along with the systematic and measurable difference in treatment between myself and other customers. The security guard, who was moments away from forcibly escorting Maya from the building now, stands frozen in place, understanding with dawning horror that he was seconds away from physically removing his own CEO from her own property. A career-ending mistake that would have made national headlines. Maya continues, her voice never rising but carrying the weight of absolute moral authority. In the past 3 hours, I've been racially profiled, systematically dismissed, questioned about my qualifications in ways other customers never face, told I was in the wrong place, accused of being disruptive for asking basic questions, and threatened with police action, all for the crime of trying to view luxury properties while black in my own showroom. The revelation ripples through the assembled crowd like an earthquake, fundamentally altering the ground beneath everyone's feet. Some customers look genuinely embarrassed and ashamed, finally understanding their complicity in what they've witnessed. Others appear fascinated by the dramatic reversal they're experiencing in real time. A few begin reaching for their phones to capture what's clearly about to become a significant moment in both corporate history and social media. The power dynamics in the room have completely inverted in a matter of seconds, leaving Maya's former tormentors exposed, vulnerable, and facing the consequences of their actions and assumptions. Tom, Maya addresses the general manager directly, her voice carrying the weight of someone who can end careers with a phone call. You were about to call the police on your own CEO for the crime of asking to see overpriced real estate in her own building. I'm genuinely curious about your reasoning and the thought process that led to that decision. The reckoning is swift, comprehensive, and absolutely devastating in its thoroughness. Within 15 minutes of Maya's identity confirmation, her executive assistant Jennifer arrives with 2 members of the legal team, the regional HR director and a crisis management specialist. The elegant showroom transforms into an impromptu courtroom where months of suspected discrimination are finally exposed to the harsh light of accountability and justice. Sarah Chen's employment termination is immediate, public, and designed to send a clear message throughout the organization about the consequences of discriminatory behavior. Ms. Chen, Maya announces to the assembled crowd of staff and customers, your actions today represent a fundamental violation of our diversity and inclusion policies, our customer service standards, our legal compliance requirements, and basic human decency. Your employment with Pinnacle Properties is terminated effective immediately, without severance, and with a permanent notation in your personnel file that will be shared with any future employers who request references. Sarah's face crumbles completely as the full magnitude of her professional catastrophe becomes clear. The same security guard who was prepared to escort Maya from the building now waits to escort Sarah to collect her personal belongings under supervision. Please, Sarah whispers desperately. I have a mortgage, children in private school, car payments. I made a mistake. I can change. But Maya's expression remains absolutely impassive, carved from stone. Miss Chen, you didn't make a mistake. You made a calculated series of deliberate choices to treat me differently based solely on the color of my skin. This isn't about one bad day or a momentary lapse in judgment. This is about a deeply ingrained pattern of behavior that my subsequent investigation will undoubtedly reveal has affected numerous other customers over an extended period. Tom Rodriguez fares only slightly better, but his professional destruction is equally complete. His suspension is immediate and permanent, pending a comprehensive investigation of his management practices, staff training programs, and response to discrimination complaints. Tom, you had multiple opportunities to de-escalate this situation and chose escalation at every turn. You threatened to call police on a customer who was asking reasonable questions and making legitimate requests. Most importantly, you completely failed to recognize blatant discrimination happening directly under your watch and chose to compound it rather than correct it. The other staff members who participated in or enabled Maya's humiliation face immediate consequences, ranging from mandatory sensitivity training to formal reprimands that will permanently impact their career advancement opportunities. Maya makes it crystal clear that this reckoning isn't just about individual prejudice, it's about systematic failures that allowed such behavior to flourish unchecked in an organization that publicly commits to equality. Inclusion. Effective immediately, Maya announces to the remaining staff members, this location will implement weekly diversity training, comprehensive bias awareness programs, anonymous customer feedback systems, mystery shopper programs to monitor equal treatment, and regular audits of customer interactions. Any employee found engaging in discriminatory practices will face immediate termination without the possibility of appeal or reinstatement. The customers who witnessed and in some cases actively supported Maya's discrimination now find themselves in an intensely uncomfortable position, forced to confront their own complicity in perpetuating systemic racism. The white couple who received such dramatically preferential treatment shifts uncomfortably as they realize they were unknowing participants in a discriminatory system that elevated them while excluding others based solely on race. Some customers approach Maya to offer sincere apologies and express their shame at not speaking up when they witnessed obvious injustice. Others quietly slip away, too embarrassed by their earlier assumptions and comments to face the consequences of their revealed prejudices. The woman who loudly proclaimed that some people don't know their place has disappeared entirely, presumably unable to face the reality that Maya's place is at the very top of the organization. Maya's phone buzzes constantly with messages from national news outlets who have somehow learned about the incident through social media posts and industry connections. The story is spreading like wildfire across Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok, with hashtags and commentary multiplying exponentially as videos from the showroom leak onto various platforms. This isn't just one CEO's undercover investigation anymore. It's rapidly becoming a powerful symbol of everyday discrimination in luxury retail and corporate America. But Maya demonstrates that she's interested in far more than personal vindication or viral fame. She immediately announces the creation of the Equal Access Initiative, a comprehensive company-wide program to audit all Pinnacle Properties locations for discriminatory practices, implement standardized customer service protocols, and ensure that every customer receives identical treatment regardless of race, gender, age, or assumed economic status. She also establishes a substantial scholarship fund for young people of color entering the real estate industry, funded entirely by her personal resources and designed to provide not just financial support but mentorship, internship opportunities, and career development guidance. This isn't about revenge, Maya tells the gathered crowd, her voice carrying the moral authority of someone who has transformed personal pain into positive change. This is about creating systematic, permanent change so that no one else has to experience what happened here today. Later that evening, as news crews pack up their equipment and the last curious onlookers drift away into the Beverly Hills twilight, Maya stands alone in her transformed showroom. The physical space looks identical to how it appeared this morning. The marble still gleams under designer lighting, the crystal chandeliers still sparkle like captured starlight, the luxury displays still showcase million-dollar dreams, but everything fundamental has changed. These beautiful fixtures now represent something entirely different, a commitment to actual equality rather than just the profitable appearance of it. Throughout the day, in carefully considered interviews with CNN, NBC, ABC, and other major networks, Maya has been deliberately careful to frame the incident not as personal vindication or individual revenge, but as a crucial teaching moment with implications far beyond one company or one industry. What happened to me today happens to people of color every single day across America, she tells Anderson Cooper during a live evening broadcast. The only difference is that I had the power and platform to do something about it immediately and publicly. Most people who face this kind of discrimination don't have that luxury or those resources. She speaks thoughtfully and analytically about the complex psychology of bias, explaining how fundamentally good people can unknowingly participate in harmful systems without necessarily recognizing their complicity or understanding the cumulative impact of their actions. Sarah Chen isn't inherently evil, Maya explains to a fascinated CNN audience. She's a product of assumptions, stereotypes, and unconscious biases that our society has normalized and reinforced for generations. But impact matters far more than intent, and the impact of her actions was to systematically exclude and humiliate someone based solely on race. In a demonstration of the leadership philosophy that built her empire, Maya announces that Tom Rodriguez, after completing extensive bias training, participating in community service programs, and demonstrating genuine understanding of his failures, will be given a carefully monitored second chance in a different role with reduced responsibilities. People can change and grow, she explains, but only if they're genuinely willing to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and commit to the hard work of personal transformation. The scholarship program she's establishing will fund not just education costs, but comprehensive mentorship opportunities, connecting young people of color with established professionals who can help them navigate the subtle but persistent barriers that still exist throughout corporate America. Representation matters enormously, Maya explains, but it's not sufficient by itself. We need to systematically change the structures, assumptions, and practices that create these barriers in the first place. She talks candidly about the lonely, exhausting burden of being often the only Black person in luxury spaces, the constant psychological toll of having to prove your right to exist in places where others are automatically welcomed and assumed to belong. I've been fortunate to achieve considerable success in business, but success shouldn't be a prerequisite for basic respect, dignity, and equal treatment under the law. The conversation naturally extends beyond real estate to every industry where similar dynamics play out daily, from high-end retail boutiques to fine dining establishments, from exclusive country clubs to corporate boardrooms. Maya's experience resonates powerfully because it's essentially universal among people of color who have achieved any level of professional or financial success, yet still regularly face the assumption that they don't belong in certain spaces. Change happens when we collectively stop accepting "that's just how things are" as an acceptable excuse for perpetuating injustice, Maya concludes. Every single person who witnesses discrimination has a fundamental choice: to speak up courageously or stay silent complicitly. Today's events proved definitively that silence enables injustice to flourish and multiply. As Maya's story spreads rapidly across social media platforms and traditional news outlets, generating millions of views, shares, and comments, her final message to the world is both simple and powerfully challenging. The next time you witness discrimination happening in front of you, ask yourself honestly, will you choose to be part of the problem through your silence, or will you choose to be part of the solution through your courage? Will you stand by quietly while someone's dignity is systematically attacked, or will you speak up for what you know is right? The hashtag number #StandUpSpeakOut begins trending nationally within hours, with hundreds of thousands of people sharing their own powerful experiences of discrimination and recounting times when courageous bystanders either helped them or, more commonly, remained disappointingly silent. Maya's story becomes a catalyst for much broader national conversations about everyday racism, unconscious bias, and the moral courage required to confront injustice when it's easier to look away. Share this story widely if you believe that every person deserves to be treated with fundamental respect and dignity, regardless of what they look like, where they come from, or how much money someone assumes they have. Maya posts on her LinkedIn profile, which gains hundreds of thousands of new followers within 24 hours. Because dreams don't have a color, they only require the determination to achieve them and the courage to persist in the face of obstacles. The incident at Pinnacle Properties rapidly becomes a comprehensive case study in business schools across the country, a training example for customer service teams in multiple industries, and a powerful reminder that prejudice thrives in silence but withers quickly under the bright light of public scrutiny. Maya Johnson didn't just reclaim her personal dignity that day. She sparked a growing movement that continues to ripple outward, creating waves of positive change in boardrooms, showrooms, and corporate cultures across America. Your worth is not determined by others' limited perceptions. It's defined by your actions, your character, and your courage to stand up for justice.